Congressman Byron Donalds joining us now on the national desk. Good morning to you, sir. I know you just heard about these thousands of flights that are grounded. I want to get to this very quickly. I know you don't know a whole lot about what's going on with the Federal Aviation Administration and the grounding of these flights, but do you have any concerns with the way the Transportation Department is handling this right now and with Buttigieg?
Well, look, from when it comes to Pete Buttigieg, I have concerns most of the time because in past crises, he seems to be on vacation or doing something else as opposed to his job. But this FAA thing is very concerning. Look, there have been questions about what's going on because there have been flight delays, mostly because we don't have enough air traffic controllers. And part of that is in part because of the COVID mandates put on by Joe Biden, where there were members who were air traffic controllers who left their job because they didn't want to get the vaccination. So that's already put pressure on air travel in the United States. Now you have this outage. I don't want to put the same thing in the outage. I think that's something that'll be resolved pretty quickly. But we need to get to the bottom of this. Congress needs to sit down and really investigate what's going on, not to cast blame or aspersions, but to make sure that we have every tool and asset we need to make sure the FAA can do its job.
And Congressman, you've had quite the week. You were placed on the House Republican Steering Committee in exchange for supporting Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. You said this was an important step to having more GOP voices on committee. So very quickly, what are your top priorities and what was that experience like last week?
Well, my top priority is number one is making sure that, every section of our conference is represented through committees. I find that what will really help a lot of our colleagues be successful is really having that understanding of different thought processes within the Republican conference. And so part of that is committee assignments. And I'm really thankful that the Speaker has given me the ability to help in that regard. But overall, I think what we saw last week was the most deliberative process in choosing leaders, something that Washington typically doesn't do. Everything in Washington is typically by acclamation or by appointment and not through a deliberative process. And so I think what we saw is something that's going to be very helpful, not only for Republicans, but really the entire House of Representatives going forward. Now, with respect to all the aspects of the deal around rules and around spending plans and so on and so forth, what members wanted to see at the end of the day was making sure that every lever possible in our capability was used to execute ways to decrease spending because it is out of control. It's hurting Americans, to make sure that we get down to the bottom of these issues and the weaponization of the government against American citizens. Those were two key things that needed to be ironed out. They were, and we're now able to move on and get down to business.
Chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Congressman James Comer, says his committee plans to investigate classified records found in Biden's private office at the Penn Biden Center. He said this is further concern. There's a two-tier justice system with the DOJ and how they treat Republicans versus Democrats. So talk to us about how you see this playing out.
Well, I think what's going to happen here is, once again, we're going to follow the evidence and follow the data chains. Listen, let's be very clear. Hillary Clinton, who was Secretary of State at the time, and I know some people are tired of hearing about emails, but she had a private server with classified information on it. There were no FBI raids into her home at Chappaqua, if you go all the way back to 2016. Donald Trump, there were documents at Mar-a-Lago. All of a sudden, you have 6 a.m. FBI raids, and all the news media knew the raid was coming. Surprise, surprise. And the cameras are there, and they're talking about this ad nauseum for about 1.5 to 2 months right before an election. And then we find out that Joe Biden had classified documents at his office in in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia. Now, here's the key thing about these documents. Joe Biden had these documents before he was president of the United States. A president of the United States has the ability to declassify information. Nobody else has that ability except a president. Joe Biden did not have that capability until he became president in 2021. So there's a big difference here between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So my questions are, one, why did the FBI hold this information from the American people? Now they're saying, oh, well, it's because of the elections. Yeah, but that doesn't seem to work when it comes to Republicans. Two, how come Joe Biden had classified information in his possession at all? He was not a former president when these documents were in his possession. Those are two big questions that need to be answered.
And finally, I want to ask you very quickly, last month, a group of Democratic lawmakers sent the commission a letter asking for restrictions on natural gas stoves because of an environmental group's report. I know this has outraged many lawmakers. You tweeted about it. What legislation is the House going to propose to be sure this does not happen?
Well, honestly, to make sure that the administration doesn't go through with this dumb policy, we're going to have to go in and figure out what they think they're going to use and make the adjustments. But this is just stupid. I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen. How many Americans have gas burning stoves? Easily half. I had one when I was young. It was great. And natural gas, it frankly is cheaper and it's more green than having to create electricity for electric stoves. Most people don't understand that when you have to actually create electricity, you know what we use? Either natural gas or coal. We don't really use a lot of solar panels for electricity or wind. And if you look at whether solar panels are green, you find out they actually emit more over their lifetime from construction of the panel to the time you got to change out the panel than it would be just to simply burn gas.